I know it's early. 3 games for the Panthers, 3 wins for the Panthers, 3 performances from Sam Darnold that may have caused people to begin to subtly or dramatically change the narrative. But it is fair to wonder whether or not the struggles of Sam Darnold, his first 3 years in the NFL, were more about the Jets and less about him. And he's already inching toward comeback player of the year territory for me, although I can hear Shereen Williams telling me you can't win the award by coming back from stinking. But still, I'm starting to think maybe the Jets had something to do with the stinking of Sam Darnold.
Mike, you know what last night's game and the first 3 weeks of this season tell us? Beware.
Absolutely nothing.
New York Jets. Beware.
Yeah.
No, beware Zach Wilson. Honestly.
Yeah. Because,
look, for years, when I have talked to agents before the draft, I always say something like, it's a shame your guy who's going to get picked in the top 3 can't be picked 27th. How do you think Lamar Jackson feels right now? Do you think he wakes up and says, man, I'm so angry I was picked at the end of the first round? He's in the playoffs every year. Come on. And that's why, to me, the first 3 weeks of the season, Mike, these are not the Sam Darnold Carolina Panthers. He's played okay to well. Okay? You know what these are? These are the Phil Snow, defensive coordinator, and a cast of about 10 really good and mostly very young defensive players who are really playing great. Now, they haven't played a great early schedule other than the Saints. But, Mike, in 3 games, they've allowed 10 points a game and 191 yards a game. I mean, that is the recipe for playing deep into January, because no one right now is playing truly great defense consistently through the season. What do we talk about all week? Can we go 5 minutes without talking about Justin Fields in Chicago? Can we go 5 minutes without talking about, geez, what's wrong with Trevor Lawrence? All we talk about in our business is quarterbacks. All right? And justifiably, Sam Darnold, he's been good in his first 3 games with the Carolina Panthers. But he hasn't been Dan Fouts. He's not been transcendent. All I'm saying is that the Carolina Panthers are where they are because of defense, and we need to recognize that.
Well, absolutely, but Sam Darnold is changing the narrative and playing a lot better than he has ever played. 304 passing yards last night and a couple of touchdowns, and it's something that you can't pull off on a team that has a bad defense, a team that has a defense that puts you in a hole. You play a different way when you're playing from behind. You're more susceptible to having blitzers flying from every direction, defensive linemen not worried about the running game anymore and just coming after you. And when you have better players around you on both sides of the ball, you become a better player, and that's one thing we lose sight of. There are certain quarterbacks who are good enough to overcome that. Most quarterbacks are not good enough to overcome that. And that Carolina defense, while we're on that topic, this is something that Drew Brees mentioned the other night when we were doing a little digital thing after halftime of the Chiefs-Ravens game. They're running a college defense. They're running a defense that offenses aren't accustomed to dealing with. And it almost reminds me of Peyton Manning's struggles with the 3-4 when, like, only the Patriots were running the 3-4 the way the Patriots were running it. Well, then other teams start using it more. What happens? You see it more often. You get more comfortable with it. You understand what it is, and all of a sudden you can deal with the Patriots a little bit better because it's not as foreign to you as it had been. This defense that Phil Snow and company are running in Carolina is unique in that the teams that are playing the Panthers aren't getting ready to face defenses like that on a regular basis, and that has an impact as well. And until others start copying the Panthers and using that defense, not that anyone will, but maybe they should, but once that happens, then offenses become more comfortable with it. They see it more often. They come up with ways to beat it.
Mike, I also think that if you watch, like last night, what really struck me, okay, the second and third plays of this game, okay, and for Houston. And, remember that they basically started the game with a little gimmick. Davis Mills, tossed it, I think it was to Brandon Cooks on a jet sweep. And, they made 5 or 6 yards. But then there were 2 really good defensive plays. One of them, the Brian Burns, he batted the pass away on 3rd down. And anyway, my whole point about what Carolina does right now, Brian Burns, Derrick Brown, Daquan Jones, that front, the Shaq Thompson factor in this game. I mean, as crazy as it sounds right now, in the month of September, when we exit the month of September, and again, obviously it's early and maybe you'd say Chandler Jones, but I might say that Shaq Thompson or Brian Burns is so far anyway, in the month of September, is the defensive player of the month, whatever you'd call it, in the league. And the reason that this is happening, you're absolutely right. Phil Snow made these adjustments at the start of the year. And last year, he played his 2 wide rushers down. And he said, I'm going to play him up this year because I think that gives him a better chance to get off the line of scrimmage and basically do better things more quickly off the line of scrimmage. Last night, that really showed with the pressure they were able to put on this kid. And Mike, by the way, I was impressed with Davis Mills last night. I mean, he didn't put up a lot of points, but he hangs in there. He makes plays. And the one thing you noticed last night, he is not afraid.
No, he took plenty of hits, and he was okay. He was moving around fine at the end of the game, but it's a simple mathematical exercise. Number of hits as they go up, chances of getting injured increase as well, and Jeff Driscoll had better be ready to go because it's going to be Davis Mills for the next few weeks, while Deshaun Watson is permanently on ice and will never play again for the Texans, and while Tyrod Taylor recovers from his hamstring injury. Back to the Panthers, 3-0 for the first time since 2015. That was the year they made it to the Super Bowl and lost to the Denver Broncos. Sam Darnold, good enough. The Panthers' offense, good enough to complement that defense. Let's hear from Matt Rule on the performance of quarterback Sam Darnold last night.
If you watch the way we called the game, it means we trust him. Even on that last drive, I mean, we're throwing, 4 verticals with him. And, I just think in my mind, I say to myself all the time, like, these are professional football players. They've been doing this their whole lives. They let them go play. Like, don't try to overmanage the game. Let them go play. Let them make plays. And so sometimes you go for it 4th and half a foot and you don't get it, they make a play, and sometimes, we go make a play. So, but I think one thing about Sam, he has some moxie, man. I mean, he stayed in the pocket, had that long run called back, but, finding Terrace on the 3rd and 12. I mean, there were some huge conversions by Sam. And, again, it's him just playing within the system, but also I think he has a courageousness that, he's not crossing the line going over the top. He's protecting the football and still pushing the ball down there. And look at the play Alex Erickson made. I mean, that ball, because it's going to be picked, is it not going to be picked? It makes a great play. So a lot of production from a lot of different places.
Oh, man, Sam handled the game tremendously well. He led well. He kept poised at the times where he needed. He made big throws. And then, when it came down to it, he made plays with his feet. I mean, that's all you can ask from a quarterback, is just to go out there and, do what he can and fight to win.
What did you learn about him in that second half without McCaffrey out there that you didn't know before?
We got a good one, man. We got a good one. And he's only going to get better. Like I said, it's always hard playing without one of your best players, but Sam stepped up and did a tremendous job tonight.
That was Cameron Irving on the back end talking about Sam Darnold. And Peter, I now know what I will be buying you for Christmas. Do you know what it is?
It's a Tommy Bahama shirt.
It is that Cameron Irving shirt, which is awesome.
Could I have that, Mike?
Just have to promise.
Hey, Mike, honest,
you'll wear it.
I would. If you buy that for me, I will wear that on Pro Football Talk. I will wear that on the Friday after Christmas. And that is a promise. That's a promise.
All right, I know where you live. Get ready. The package will be arriving. But again, Darnold was good enough, and Darnold's going to need to keep being as good as he's been, if not better, Peter. And he did most of it last night without Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey exited with the hamstring strain. And with a hamstring strain, you don't know early on how long it's going to take that muscle to heal. We already know that Tyrod Taylor is going to be out for like a month with McCaffrey's. Who knows? We'll find out. But that offense without Christian McCaffrey is very different. But Sam Darnold still found a way to make it go. And it helps when your quarterback's good for a couple of rushing touchdowns and can stick his nose in there and push it through. And, I saw somebody tweet this last night, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know what the hell forward progress has been stopped means anymore, because we've seen some forward progress get stopped very quickly when guys are trying to pass in recent days. I felt like that play was over about 7 seconds before Sam Darnold got across the goal line.
Hey, Mike, listen, we could have a whole segment on the Russell Wilson play. Because, listen, if a guy is still trying to make a play, which Russell Wilson was, and then he gets tackled in the end zone, I mean, that's a safety, period. It's a safety. And, I know that was not on the agenda this morning, but I haven't seen you in a few days. Russell Wilson got away with one. They blew it. Fix that call. But two other things about the Carolina offense right now. Number one, you know what was beautiful about the first touchdown run? And I don't know if we can play it again. But what was absolutely beautiful about this run is if you watch the Houston defense on this play, everyone, except for one player, watch this, everyone except for one player goes after Christian McCaffrey. And I love it. Watch this, the end zone. Watch. Everyone, yep. Christian McCaffrey. One guy. And so that is what, hey, look, you're going to miss a lot about Christian McCaffrey. And I get that. But one of the things that you miss about Christian McCaffrey is that he is a defense suck. He gets so much attention from the defense that no one else on that offense, unfortunately, right now is going to get. That's one thing. But the second thing is, I had a conversation with Matt Rule Sunday night, okay, after they beat the Saints. And he told me this one thing that really, really stuck with me watching the game last night. I said, hey, how's Darnold? And he goes, you know what I really like about Sam? He said, watch the end of our game here, the New Orleans game. Watch the end of our game. We were still calling passes late in that game. We weren't just sitting on it and calling run because we could. We want to get better on offense. We're calling some passes there. And so I think what that says to me is that Matt Rule is telling Joe Brady, hey, listen, play football. Don't be holding the reins back because we're afraid Sam's going to turn it over. And Mike, right now, 12 quarters, 1 interception, 1 lost fumble, although he did fumble last night. 1 interception, 1 lost fumble. That's 2 turnovers in 3 games. That is a rate that you can live with, especially when Sam Darnold is completing 68%. To me, as much as we started and I said defense, Sam Darnold is playing well. He's not playing in a superior way. He's playing well, and that is what they need right now.
That's a great point. In a game that's already decided and you could just milk the clock and get out of there, go ahead and work some of your plays. Go ahead and put some stuff on film that defenses have to pay attention to. Get your offense more comfortable with all these new pieces working together. It's going to serve you well in October, November, December, and into January. Chuba Hubbard had 42 snaps last night in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. 11 carries for 52 yards. Not quite the same defense suck as you would say, but it gives Hubbard a chance to develop if McCaffrey misses some time. Here's Rule talking about the Christian McCaffrey injury and the impact that McCaffrey has on the Carolina offense.
Christian strained his hamstring. I don't know the severity level of it yet, to be quite honest with you. But I knew the minute it happened, they said, hey, he's out for the game. So that's all I knew. I just saw him in there. He's moving around, but he's, obviously, I have to wait and see kind of MRI maybe or something to see what the severity is.
Connected at all in the last week's stuff?
No, last week was cramps. Yeah, last week was cramps. I don't know what happened today. I just think he pulled it. Christian just can kind of do everything. And so, I think the biggest thing that he brings is they have to, account for him in every passing rep. They can't just double DJ. They can't just double Robbie. They have to account for him. And I think, Sam has done a great job finding other guys. A lot of off-schedule plays that happen going to Dan Arnold, hit Tommy Tremble down the right sideline. So I thought Sam played in true progression today. But, Christian's amazing at his ability to win one-on-one. So, people have to zone everything off, and that creates a lot of windows for other people.
It's easy to forget that unless you had him on your fantasy team last year, McCaffrey only played in 3 games in 2020, and the Panthers were still respectable. They can, I think, continue to move the ball effectively without McCaffrey now. Chuba Hubbard was good enough, and whether McCaffrey misses no time, they've got the Cowboys coming up next weekend, whether he misses multiple games, to get back to the defense, it helps when your defense is as good as it is. And there's the hamstring pull for Christian McCaffrey, and we'll see how much time he misses. And yes, it would be great to have him, but I don't think that you press the panic button in Carolina because they've got so many great players and they're getting it done a lot of different ways, Peter.
Yeah, and right now is the time when every football team during the course of a season has moments. Carolina's is coming early. And there's a lot of teams. The Ravens, their moments really came in late August and September, early September. They have moments where really, really bad things happen, and then you figure out whether your team is good enough. And just like Baltimore on Sunday night, their team was good enough to sort of make up for all the players they've lost. They've lost 58 running backs, and then all of a sudden, hey, Ronnie Stanley's not playing. And you have to figure out a way. And just like Baltimore scores 36 points and wins late, the Carolina Panthers now are going to have to find a way to go to Dallas. And the reason that I kind of like this matchup, Mike, is that, Carolina right now in holding teams to 10 points a game, I doubt the Cowboys are going to put up a 30-burger on them. So when you look at that game, you say, can their offense, basically find a way to score 25, 28, maybe 30 points to be able to go to Dallas and beat a team with a powerful offense, knowing that, there's 2 things going in Carolina's favor now, Mike. They're going to be well rested. They're not hurt on defense right now. They're very healthy, and they are going to go there as the best defense in the NFL. And again, it's 10 days away. But they're going to go there as the best defense in the NFL to try to beat a very, very good offense. That's one of the games the next weekend.
They do have one significant injury on defense. Cornerback J.C. Horn has broken bones.
Right, that's right. I forgot.
Multiple bones, couple of bones in his foot, and he exited. Who knows when he will be back. You make a great point, though, about the clusters of injuries that will happen. In a 17-game season, you just have to expect it. When you least expect it, expect it. And the question is, do you have the depth? Do you have the coaching? Do you have the resilience and will to get through those moments when you lose key players for a short period of time or for the balance of the season? What does the next man up bring to the table? How much cap space did we have to make sure that we put in position behind key starters, competent, veteran, experienced players, or are we rolling the dice with a guy that was undrafted, that we tried to develop on an accelerated basis, and can we pull it off? Is he good enough? Are we good enough? These are the things that most teams are going to have to deal with. Now, there will probably be, when we look back at the end of the season, and I think it'll be an interesting study, did anyone avoid that inevitable moment where, hope this guy's hurt, what are we going to do? If you can avoid it, you're going to be far more likely to be successful. But, Peter, some teams just aren't going to be able to do it. They're so top-heavy with their cap numbers, with their star players that if you lose one or two of those star players, you just don't have the guys. You don't have the coaching. You don't have the ability to continue to play at the level that you need to. And it's a testament to John Harbaugh that I'm sure he does a great job of coaching up the guys who come in and speaking to them the right way and inspiring them to do everything they have to do. But 17-game season, we have to just accept the fact that there will be these pockets for a lot of competitive teams that may bring them down or may bring them together.
Well, Mike, you know the story, and segueing to the Ravens just for a second, you know the story of Justin Houston and how he signed with the Ravens. You know, the agent for Justin Houston called Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Ravens, twice, and DeCosta just said, we can't afford Justin Houston. We don't have any cap room at all. We just can't do it. And finally the agent said, look, Justin Houston wants to play with Marcus Peters. That's one of his best friends, one of his favorite guys he's ever played with. Justin Houston wants to play on the Ravens. So just make any offer. And DeCosta said, he basically said to the agent, I'm almost embarrassed because people are going to talk about Justin Houston for the Hall of Fame one day, and I'm going to make him this offer. And he offered him basically $2 million. That's it for the year. And I know in a certain segment of society you say, well, I'll take a bad offer of $2 million for the year. But Justin Houston, whatever, is used to making 8, 10, 12 million a year, and he's still effective. And Houston wanted to play for the Ravens so bad that he took it, and they basically rejiggered a couple of contracts and found $2 million under the couch cushions. So all I'm saying is that, there are some times when events like that happen for different reasons. And some franchises are dealing with a different set of fairness and unfairness issues because, Justin Houston is not saying that about the Bengals. He's not begging the Bengals to come and play for him. So that is sort of one of the built-in advantages to one of the good teams.
And then Marcus Peters tears an ACL in August, and he's gone for the year, and he doesn't get to play with Justin Houston. But regardless, it's an excellent point on certain teams can attract those veteran backups and guys who can fit into a rotation on a defensive line like a Justin Houston at a cheaper price because guys get to a certain point in their career when I want to go there, not I want top dollar.
Right. And
that does help some teams weather the storms that are inevitable. And that extra game on the way to 18, I think over-under for me is 2029, 2028-ish to go to 20 games. But I think that we're going to get there inevitably, and that's going to change the dynamic as well and make it more likely that teams are going to go through these periods with injuries. The Texans have gone through a lot at quarterback. They're going through their injury period at quarterback. Tyrod Taylor has been very good. He's out reportedly 4 weeks with that hamstring injury. Davis Mills getting an NFL start before Justin Fields, before Trey Lance. Third-round pick Mills last night. Here's David Culley, the coach of the Texans, on the performance of his rookie quarterback.
I thought he did very well. He did not turn the ball over at all, which was a big thing going into the game. I thought he threw the ball very well. I thought when we went on our 2-minute offense right before half, he did an excellent job of taking us down the field and making some nice throws and nice plays. And I thought he did a nice job for us.
19 for 28, 168 yards, and 1 touchdown. Passer rating of 95.5. That used to be an extremely impressive number. Now it's just kind of His favorite target, without question, Brandon Cooks, 9 catches for 112 yards. And it's funny, Peter, because I tweeted, and I knew when I tweeted it that I was setting myself up for this. I said, this just feels like one of those games. They could play 120 minutes, and the Texans aren't going to score more than 3 points. And they go right down the field, and they get their touchdown, miss the extra point, make it 7-6. And it's, they made it interesting. It was respectable. It was just a slow suffocation in the second half, but if you're looking for hope, and you're in a division where, nobody's out of it at 1 and 2, and in the AFC South, I don't think you're going to be out of it if you're 1-5, but you're just looking for something, if you're a Texans fan, to cling to. And maybe they can get lucky and steal a win or two while they wait for Tyrod Taylor to come back. And when Taylor comes back healthy, and if he can stay healthy, it's a big if, frankly, but if he can stay healthy, they can be competitive.
Mike, if I'm a Texans fan, honestly, I'll tell you this. I'm pretty happy this morning. You know why? Because now I know that for the rest of this year, let's just say, and we'll project, okay? Let's just say Tyrod Taylor gets 10 starts and Davis Mills gets 7, okay? At the end of this year, you're going to understand who is the best guy of those two. I think it'll be pretty clear. You'll know who the best guy of those two at the end of the year is. And then you will say, okay, we are going to have our own very high draft choice. And most likely, we're going to have a couple more high draft choices from trading Deshaun Watson, most likely in March. So if you're Houston, the thing that you're happiest about right now, whether you're Nick Caserio, David Culley, Cal McNair, you know what you're happy about? This team doesn't stink. It's not a good team, but they play hard. They play for this coach. And look, Mike, in August I said the Houston Texans are an expansion team. You know, they're going to win 1 or 2 or 3 games. And you know what? They might. The thing, though, that I really like about them, watching them, they are competitive and they fight and they play hard. And if you're David Culley, that's all you want in your team. You can't control. It's like Drew Brees always had this statement when he would talk to young quarterbacks. Don't look at the scoreboard. Don't think about the scoreboard. Control this play. Control your effort. Control all the things you can control. And don't be looking up at the scoreboard and saying, oh, we're down by 7. It's over, late, or whatever. You know, and so that is what I see in the Houston Texans. They are playing every play really, really hard. And so I'm a Texans fan. I'm happy today.
Nick Caserio has done a great job of bringing in veteran players who have fit together quickly. It's a testament to David Culley. A lot of people were surprised that he got the job. He wasn't a candidate for any of the other vacancies this year, last year, any year. But it's working relative to what we thought it was going to be. Now, I'm going to do the schedule peek ahead just a few weeks, just to get an idea of what 1 and 2 is going to become. It's very ugly. It's very, very ugly. They got butchered, Peter. It's at the Bills. It's the Patriots. At the Colts, which all of a sudden seems like a rest stop, given where the Colts are right now. Of course, it's a rest stop for them, too, because they've got 5 crippling games before they get the Texans. Then it's at the Cardinals, the Rams, at the Dolphins, and then a bye in Week 10. So, it's going to be a struggle week in and week out for the Texans. But at least they got their win over the Jaguars, and we'll see where else they can find other wins as they try to get to where they want to be. And when they get Tyrod Taylor back, they will be more competitive. They'll get their wins.
Mike, a team that plays that hard is going to find 3 or 4 wins. I'm just telling you, unless they give up. And I who knows. But, you talk about how great the schedule is. Look at the second half. They got the Jets and the Jags. So who knows? I'm not saying they're going to be good because I don't believe they're going to be good. But they're not going to win one game either.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.